if you don't know about the time frame that we are at the Bassmaster Classic in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we have a special guest. It's one of those that we're glad that he got to come on, but we're also disappointed that the fact that we were able to get him to come on, because if he's here, that means he's not fishing today. But we've got Bassmaster qualifier Cole Sands, brother man. Thank you for coming on.
What's going on?
And so we want to talk to you a little bit because, I mean, you have had the past couple of years have been just kind of stellar years for you, and you have been able to put yourself in contention to be able to come here. And this is your first Bassmaster Classic. So how has the Bassmaster Classic been for you to be able to be an angler in part of the Bassmaster Classic?
Man, it's a dream come true. This is something, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, when I became a fan of Bassmaster at, probably 11 years old, started really following the elite trail. The Bassmaster Classic always seemed like a dream or a goal that was just almost unattainable.
Right.
As just, kind of life unfolded and as I grew as a person and as an angler, fishing junior and high school and college and the opens, I was like, man, it'd be really awesome to fish that one day. And definitely when I made the elite series and got to fish my rookie season last year, that was my number one goal. I was like, it'd be awesome to win rookie of the year, but like my number one goal is Bassmaster Classic. Like that's something not a whole lot of people get to do in this life. And that's definitely something I set my sights on. And man, this week has been awesome. Really tried just to soak it in. Wish it would have ended a little bit better, but man, I left it all out there in the water. I fished my butt off, and I caught what bit, and I swung for the fences and tried to. This is one of them tournaments you don't fish for second. Like, you fish to try to win. And I thought I was on the fish after practice to do so. And so I, that first day when I only brought in 12 pounds, at 3 o'clock, I only had 2 fish for about 3 pounds. I was like, okay, I got to keep myself in contention. I got to go catch a limit. Picked up my jerk bait, ran some water, caught a limit really quick. And I was like, okay, I salvaged it. At least tomorrow I can go out and maybe make it up. And I had a little bit better day too. But, I probably could have played it safe and probably caught 15 a day and been fishing today, but you're not going to win the Classic doing that.
Yeah.
You got to shoot for 20 plus pounds a day. And hey, what an awesome experience. And I definitely going to try really hard to get here every single year.
Yeah, and the Bassmaster Classic, nobody remembers who came in second.
No.
But it's all about that number one prize.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you qualify to make it to the elites? Did you qualify through the opens, or how did you get to the elites?
So I qualified through the elite series last year. Through the point system. And the way that works, the top 40 in points every year get to go. And then if there's double qualifiers, which we had 3 last year, they work down. So last year we ended up having 43 elites make it. I finished 42nd in the points. So I made it by a spot.
Pretty much by the skin of your...
Yeah, well, it was the last tournament.
It was the last tournament. I caught pretty much what I needed to the ounce to qualify.
Okay.
So, but yeah, definitely very, very happy to be here.
We were watching and we were doing some cheering. Caught that last fish to get yourself in there. That is super sweet, dude.
Yeah,
super sweet.
Well, you are a local guy to us, but you're not originally from the Chattanooga area. So and you're from Alaska?
Yep,
correct.
Fairbanks, Alaska.
So how were you able to get to Tennessee from Alaska?
Yeah, so both my parents are actually originally from Florida. My dad just always wanted to go to Alaska. It's just kind of one of them things. And there was a job opening up there, so he took it. He was a U.S. Marshal for 20 years. He's retired now. So he took it. I was born up there. I lived there till I was 10. And a lot of my love for the outdoors came from my dad. He had me out in the woods, dedicated a ton of time, hunting and fishing as a young kid. I was 3 years old. Bear hunting. I remember it, and I was a strange kid too. I was quiet, I see 3-year-olds now. I'm like, how in the world did you take me? He's like, well, you were different than most kids. Like you were very quiet, respectful, and you were actually teachable at that age. And so yeah, I think just falling in love with the outdoors at that young of an age. And then at 10, my grandparents were starting to get older, and my parents wanted to get back closer to Florida, where all my grandparents are at, and but they didn't really want to go to Florida. So Tennessee, there was a job opening in Chattanooga. My dad took it, and we moved to Tennessee. and hated it at first, but got involved with a junior bass club and kind of fell in love with bass fishing, and it's been a huge blessing.
Now, how much bass fishing do they have in Alaska? Is bass fishing big?
We don't have bass in
I
Alaska,
was going to
so
say,
yeah,
I didn't think there's bass in Alaska. That's why I was asking.
and my first year fishing the junior club, I was actually throwing salmon spoons and muskie baits, pike baits, trying to catch a bass. So
yeah, I got you. You didn't move to the States or to Tennessee until you were 10. So you pretty much didn't really know too much about bass fishing until.
No, I was clueless about bass fishing, and I'm very much self-taught. I didn't know very much, but
did you follow it all in Alaska as far as
no,
the sport at all?
I probably didn't even realize it existed.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was a big fan of PBR, professional bull riding in Alaska, which is kind of crazy. But I don't remember if I was a fan of bass fishing or not.
Yeah. Now, when you found out about bass fishing, when you moved to Tennessee and kind of found out that there's a such thing as you can make a living bass fishing, was there anybody in particular that you followed as far as that you've seen in the sport and you wanted to kind of model your career after, because I guess you had a dream when you first found out about bass fishing. That's what I wanted to do. I love this.
Yeah.
Was there somebody that you seen and says, that's who I want to try to follow my career after?
Yeah. So when I started fishing the junior tournaments, I did terrible my first year. I mean, I don't think I caught a fish, and I remember, just wanting to learn. So I started watching the Elite Series. I mean, any information that was out there, man, I fell in love with the sport, and I don't know if I knew I wanted to make a living at it then, but I just knew I loved it, and I loved to fish. And I'll say the angler I probably tried to model most. That was about probably 20. I don't know. Brandon Polinick was kind of new on the scene. He was a young guy. He kind of changed used to a lot of the older anglers, they tell you need to get really good at one technique, and that needs to be your technique. Yeah. And Polinick kind of said, no, you can be good at everything. Yeah. And he was a young guy, and he started killing it. It's crazy because I'm fishing against Polinick now, and he doesn't even seem that old. He's like only like maybe 6 years older than I am, but he's definitely somebody I tried to model the way I fish after.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he's been one for me.
So has the love for bass fishing and stuff like that. I mean, it's not just tournament fishing for you as well. I mean, because back at home, you when you have the time to be able to guide, you're out on the water guiding different clients and stuff like that, and so there's not a time that you're not on the water trying, even learning different things and picking up things. And so can you real quick, can you talk about like if people want to be able to say, all right, I'm going to Chattanooga and I want to fish on Chickamauga, Watts Ball, or Nickajack or whatever, how can people get a hold of you to be able to get to where they can take a guided trip out with you?
Yeah, so you can go to coalsandsfishing.com. My number's on there. Feel free to text me or call me. If I'm fishing a tournament, it might be a little bit before I respond to you, which I do apologize about. And then a lot of people hit me up through a Facebook Messenger. Instagram also works. Coal Sands Fishing on both of those. And just let me know. I'm pretty booked up right now, but I think I have one date available for Chickamauga still this year. But I love teaching fishing as much as anything. That's something I've kind of developed a love for, since I started to guide. And and I love to fish. I mean, that's why I do this. There's some people it probably gets old, but if what I do for fun, if I have a day off, I'm going to go fish, just because I love it.
Now we got Tom Helton. He said that I've been watching and knowing Cole for at least 10 years. Tell him I said hi. So, Tom, we let him know.
Hey, Tom. Hope you're doing well.
So, but yeah, and that's one thing that I've noticed, like being around these guys, the anglers and stuff like yourself, that there's really not a downtime. Like how different sports and stuff, like they'll have a few months that it's their off season. Y'all have an off season, but to like, let's say for instance, like baseball, well, they're going to the batting cages and stuff like that, trying to do all that, but you're having to stay on top of your game I think it's more important as in fishing wise to stay on top and be out on the water as much as possible especially during that off time, because things change so much in fishing to where baseball, it's pretty much the same, or any other sports, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you as long as you're staying in shape, you're going to be all right. So how critical for, like, let's say for we have a kid that's in high school or that's wanting to grow up, how critical is it for them to be able to spend as much time on the water to be able to improve their game, to be able to get to where they're sitting, like where you're sitting?
It's very critical. And I remember, maybe it was in high school, but as a junior and high school angler too, I mean, just anything, like even if it's just a pond, thankfully, where my parents, when we moved to Tennessee, we had a house with just a little pond on it, had a few bass in it, and I probably caught every one 100 times. But I worked on getting my fundamentals, casting, skipping, gaining confidence in different baits. A pond's a great place to do that. So, but yeah, definitely, if you can get out on the lake and develop your technique, get confidence in yourself, and treat every time you go as a learning opportunity. It's not always about catching 100 fish, or you're catching a bunch of fish, but hey, I caught fish here doing this. Why are they here right now? And can I duplicate that on other places of the lake now that this has worked here? And that's one of the biggest things I can encourage people to do if they're trying to learn, and especially at a young age like that. Don't worry about always, catching the most fish to brag to your buddies. Worry about learning, because, a few years down the road, you're going to be the one that's beating them because you put in your time. You spent time graphing. You found brush piles. You found these sneaky places. You put in a lot of time not catching them.
Right.
And that's one thing that I definitely did in college a lot. Going to school at Bryan College in Dayton, Tennessee, I spent a ton of time on the lake, and I'd go a day or two and I might not catch very many fish, but I would find little sneaky places. Maybe this is a place for one big one, or this is a good ledge that it's not on my mapping that I didn't even know about. There's a rock pile here, so I spent a lot of time just graphing, learning, and didn't worry about always catching the most. And that way, when tournament time rolled around, I knew a lot of a couple of unique places that maybe everybody else didn't know about.
Yeah. Now, talking about like preparing yourself growing up to be able to spend as much time on the water. Now you've done that. You've proven yourself. You got to the elites. Now, when you got to the elites that first year, you made the Classic. Now, what is your mindset going into the week of Classic, driving from Chattanooga to Tulsa, having the boat pulling behind you? What is going through your mind on that 11-hour trip coming from?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was pretty focused. I mean, that's the main thing. It's like I felt like I'm here for a reason, and I just wanted to go out there and try to give it a shot to win it. It's my first Classic, and I don't think anybody's ever won their first Classic. So that was kind of my goal, and that was kind of my mindset, and just try to find off the wall stuff, try to find stuff that other people aren't doing, and try to find places where big fish live. And
let me ask you this: How much sleep did you get the night before day one?
The tournament?
Yeah, any? Or
actually, I was pretty wore out at that point. I slept okay. But yeah, that's something people don't talk about too. This week wears you out. I know yesterday when I got off the water, because it's such an adrenaline rush. You get here, you practice, and then you get media days, all the meetings and all that stuff. And then Wednesday you get to go practice again. Then Thursday, you have more stuff, and then the tournament starts, and it's just a huge adrenaline rush. You're pretty tired by then, but and I know yesterday I got off stage and I was just like, man, I got to go to sleep.
When you were when all the boats were getting staged up, ready to get sent out and get the names called on day one.
Yeah.
Have you ever? What was your adrenaline and emotions like right before your name was called? And have you ever felt any kind of adrenaline rush like that before in anything you've done, any tournaments previous, or was that just unreal what you experienced?
No, the takeoff on day one was unbelievable. And what was crazy about it was raining. It was a little bit cold, and there's more people actually for blast off on day one than there was on day two, which surprised me. I mean, there was probably 1,000 people at the dock, and there's 2 helicopters swirling around, and just to see everybody out on the dock, you got a huge Yamaha boat, a huge Mercury boat out there, and the Yamaha boat signing up or holding up signs that say "Go Cole," and as you blast off, and it's a surreal feeling, and even more than that, driving through to weigh in. I've actually weighed in on actually this very stage before. High school and college, they have a college classic and a high school classic.
Right.
I've fished both of those several times, so I've got to weigh in on classic stage. But you're not you're not fishing the actual
The
Bassmaster
classic.
Classic. So when I got on stage and in front of all those people and talking to Mercer, man, it was emotional. I mean, that first day I choked up a little bit. Like it's just seeing that dream come true, and it's
talking about your family.
Mhm.
And we know your family is very important to you,
There.
and your faith is very important to
Yes.
you. But when you're talking about your family on stage, what does that mean to you, and how important is that support system you have with your family, kind of behind your side the whole way?
Oh, it's been huge. My parents, they've never doubted me for a second. You have, a lot of parents probably say, hey, maybe you should do this, or do that, just, because they want what's best for you. Most parents do. But my parents have believed in me from the start, and encouraged me to chase this dream, and have definitely supported me every way they possibly can. I know, when I was 16 years old, my parents were able to get me a small bass tracker and allowed me to put time in the water. And when my dad retired, he took a second job to help me get a fiberglass boat when I was in college. So my parents have been more than I could ever ask for. And I definitely want to be here today without them. Definitely am extremely appreciative to them. And
and also to have them in the what your fiance
stuff
in the crowd.
Yeah, so actually my dad's health hasn't been good, so unfortunately they weren't able to make it. They watched it online, of course, every bit of it. But my fiance, she came, which is awesome. She loved every second of it. The Night of Champions is a really cool event. As much as I wanted to qualify for the Classic, the Night of Champions is something that I wanted to go to as well. I always thought that was a cool event. So she came, and her family came as well, or her parents came as well. So I enjoyed seeing them there, and that was very kind of them to drive that far from Tennessee. They're in Tennessee as well.
Able to get dressed up.
Yeah.
To go to the Night of Champions, where you don't normally, in the fishing community anyway, get to come out of Jersey.
You probably wouldn't recognize half of us.
So
the only one that's possibly be recognized is going to be Matt Robson.
Oh, you ain't going to miss him. No, he makes sure of that.
But what was it like when they pulled that curtain back that first on day one, pulled that curtain, and you see the crowd out there, you see the stage, you see Mercer standing on the stage? What was going through your mind on that? Was like, because to me that I'd be like, one, I made it.
Yeah.
Because to me that would be I made it feeling. But then it's overwhelming because just being there, knowing what the Classic means to everybody, and how hard you worked on it. What was your emotions as soon as that curtain was drawn?
Oh man, it was surreal. The curtains, came back, and I came in. I'm like, I'm actually fishing the Bassmaster Classic. Like this is, I think that's when it sunk in. Like this is it.
Is that when it hit you?
Yeah, because like fishing and practice and all that, it just feels like you're fishing a tournament. But like blast off felt like it was bigger, definitely. But when you're going through that way in, it's like, I'm actually fishing the Classic, and just it was a kind of a surreal moment, and I just just want to say thank you, God. Like it was a very special moment.
I hate to go backwards a little bit, but going back to blast off on Friday morning, when you blast off, you got your adrenaline pumping, your heart's probably pumping throughout the whole ride. And how long did it take for you to kind of settle your nerves and just go to work?
Well, it took a little bit. Yeah, it took a little bit because I was a late boat number, and I had one spot that I knew if I could get on it, I'd start with 3 to 5 fish. Like probably be a couple good ones too. And I run down there, and I feel a little wake in front of me, and as I'm rounding a bend, I'm like, there's somebody in front of me. Like, but this is a big area. They're not going to be on that one spot I found. Around the corner, they're on it. I was like, dadgum. I was like, well, that's what, because I was banking on that spot just to calm down, catch 3 or 4 fish, hopefully have a limit. Honestly, I thought I could. The second day I got started on, I caught 4 in my first 10 minutes. So anyways, so there's a boat on it, whatever. Okay, I had a good practice, just running my next spot. Run through there, around the bend, Cody Huff sitting on my next spot. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll fish out here for a little bit because I caught some fish on stuff he wasn't fishing, and then I fished it, didn't get a bite. I was like, okay, let's go. I'm gonna have to start changing things up. And I went. I was like, well, let's go try my jerkbait deal because in practice I could get you catch 5 shorts, then you catch a good one on a jerkbait. And I had one pocket where I caught some big ones, and I went in there and I caught 40 short fish, and one was like a line burner keeper, and I was like, well, I'm picking my crankbait back up. I'm going to go swing for the fences, and if I catch them, because I was catching really big ones in practice on a crankbait, and I fished for 7 more hours or 6 more hours without a bite, and I was like, I got one more jerkbait place I need to go hit, and I caught one keeper on a crankbait. It was like a 2 1/4 pounder, and then picked up a jerkbait, pulled to a point, and the spots were spotted bass. Actually, weighed 12 pounds of spotted bass the first day, which they're pretty good spots, but I was happy to have them. I pulled up and I caught a limit and called one in the last little 30 minutes. I'm like, hey, thankfully I get away in a limit on the classic stage because I did not want to go across that stage with 2 fish.
We talked to you briefly. I was going to say, we talked to you briefly on media day, and you had said that you had a couple spots you were going to first that you were really excited about getting to.
Yeah.
And you just said Cody Huff was on your second spot.
He was on one of them.
And he's in the top 5 right now.
Yeah, well, he was
So
second after day. Yeah, I don't know,
but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Cody Huff just took my spot.
I ain't saying that. A good angler can still adjust.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. Yeah.
It's all good.
So the crankbait was more or less your go-to of what you because you knew you were going to get better quality fish without having to go through some shorts on with the jerkbait. Were they positioning themselves? Because I've heard some of them say that they're already starting to spawn, and I heard a couple other people say they're probably about a week and a half out.
Mm-hmm.
So was most of your fish, was it more shallow based, or was it more kind of on like the secondaries?
So it was. So after the first 3 days of practice, and I wish the classic could have started on Monday of last week, but it was. I'd probably never been so dialed in for a tournament as I had after those 3 days. I felt like it was very, very specific. I was looking for, so there'd be a spawning pocket, which would be flat, 4 foot and less for a ways back. But at the mouth of it or somewhere on that flat, I was marking isolated brush piles. I was marking isolated rock piles and rock veins. I was also catching them on a certain type of rock. If it was a rock point with this type of rock, they weren't on the point of it. They were on there'd be a point, but they'd be on the inside of it. They'd be on the sides of the point, not on the tip of it. And it had to be there had to be about 4 or 5 foot of water leading up to that side of that point. It couldn't be 3 foot or less for a long ways. Like it was so specific. And if I saw that in practice, I'd pull up, I'd make one cast, I'd catch one between 3 and 6 pounds, go to the next one cast, 3 to 6 pounder, and I was like, I'm going to blow this thing away. I'm like, I'm about to win the Bassmaster Classic. I really, really thought that, and for whatever reason, I don't know if them fish just didn't bite on day one for me or they left. Now, yesterday, one of those spots finally paid off for me. At the end of the day, I pulled up on it, caught a 4 1/2 pounder crank it. But yeah, and it was very specific too. I was throwing a little Yozuri flat side, 3DRX flat crank, brown crawl color. A lot of people were cranking, but the only way I get them to bite it, you throw it out there, reel it to the bottom, and then sweep your rod, almost drag it. And same way with like the brush piles, you'd reel it down the brush piles and drag it over it. Just inhale it. I don't know why that bite went away. And then the jerkbait bite was more, it was secondary points. They weren't on the points on the way back. They weren't on the points in the mouth, but any point, halfway back in a pocket or a creek, fish were positioned in 4, or actually even some shallower than that, 3 to 12 foot of water. I alternated between just a regular Yozuri 110 jerkbait and a 110 deep. And had a couple different colors. Pro blue, clear pro blue was a good one. And then that was really probably the one I threw the most. But so that was kind of my backup pattern. That was the safe pattern. So yesterday when I had over 15 pounds, I threw that jerkbait probably about 4 hours of the day instead of just like an hour like I did the first day. And I caught every bit of 70 fish yesterday. Probably 30 keepers. Now, most of them are 2 pounders, which don't do anything for you. But as far as catching fish, like Grand Lakes fishing, really good as far as catching fish. But
you got to find the right one.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to my quality. Like I said, at the end of the day, I picked that crankbait back up, started running some more rock, and I got one bite. It was a 4 1/2 pounder. It was one of the right ones. But hey, it was a good week, and I kept that crankbait in my hand the first day. I probably should have jerk baited a little bit more, and that's how Hamner's probably about to win this tournament. But he found areas with that jerk bait where the quality was really good, and but hey, it was a great experience either way.
Right. And I mean, we got to say congratulations to you. I mean, just to get here and to be a qualifier. And we know that this isn't your first, or I mean, it is your first. This isn't your last, is what I was trying to say. But we know we're going to see you again. Hopefully, we're going to see you here in Texas here next year. And but with that being said, with people that has not had the opportunity to fish Grand Lake, and especially like for our local guys that's in the Chattanooga area, can you tell them like what lake around us that it kind of fishes? And we talked about it on media day a little bit, but is there a lake that's locally to us that Grand Lake kind of fishes like? So when somebody, it may pique their interest in where I want to go because.
Yeah, it sets up a lot like Douglas, in my opinion. You get back to the creeks and it's pretty flat, and you can do you look for some of the same type of rock you look for in Douglas. Like I was catching fish off a lot of flat rock. Douglas has a good bit of that. Cherokee has some as well. And then Watts Bar. Graham's got actually a lot of rock in it, a lot of laydowns. Doesn't have grass, but Watts Bar also is kind of a little deep, clear, a lot of docks, a lot of rock. And Graham's a really good jig lake, and Watts Bar is too. So I felt like it probably set up, and it's also got a lot of brush in it too. Grand Lake does, and so does Watts Bar. So I felt like those two lakes they probably set up the most similar to.
Right. And then one thing that I was talking to you just briefly on media day, how because we'll talk to some anglers and you can kind of see that they had the jitters and stuff like that. You really were kind of, I mean, you were, yeah. I mean, you were ready to go. Mm-hmm. I knew that soon as blast off happened on Friday, that Cole was going to be ready to go. Mm-hmm. There was no, unless you hit it well. I mean, but to me, I didn't see any kind of nervousness, especially for somebody that with it being their first classic. You seemed like you had been there before.
At least he didn't show the first time jitters.
Yeah. Right. So, was that just because that you did have a pretty good like practice, the 3 days practice that you were confident, all right, I'm going to be able to catch the fish? Did you think that's the reason, or is that just your personality just to kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a couple things. I think first, fishing so many college and then open tournaments, then having a year on the Elite Series as well. That definitely settled me down a lot. Hey, it's just another tournament. Go out there and catch them. Fish up to what you're capable of. And a great practice always helps too. Like, hey, I don't care who it is. If you catch 20 pounds, you're going to be holding the trophy. Every day. It don't matter if it's if it's me or Kevin Van Dam. Like, if you go out there and catch what I thought I was capable of catching, I knew I could have a shot at the tournament. And that waiting process is definitely hard, in between the practices and everything, because you're just so excited to go out there and fish. But I think it's all that, and then just having my faith in God and knowing like if it's meant to happen, like it's going to happen, and no matter what, I'm good either way. I'm happy in life. I have joy that goes beyond fishing, and so for me, it's like if he wants me to win this tournament, it's going to happen. All I can do is all I can do, and I pray that I make good decisions, and but I just want to honor God, and that's my main goal in life. So for me, I didn't have a whole lot of jitters. I think it was just more excitement, just ready to go. Let's go, fish this classic and see what happens. And no matter what, I'm going to have a great time and hopefully catch some big ones.
Yeah. And so after coming and doing this week and stuff and being at the classic, now with already having 2 events in the pockets for this year, mm-hmm. and you got 2 coming up in Florida. Now, how stoked are you to be able to, all right, let's get back to business. I'm down in Florida.
Yeah.
Let's go on and get it. Let's set myself up to where I want to be back here next year. So or have you even thought about that yet?
Oh, no, I've thought about it every second since I weighed in yesterday. I'm ready to go to Florida right now. Like, Yeah, I think once you fish the Classic and realize how awesome of an experience it is, like it just makes you want it that much more. I mean,
Drives you that much more.
yeah, like I mean, I'm gonna go home for a week. I got a couple guide trips. I'm actually doing a couple of guide trips up in Northeast Tennessee on some of those lakes, like around Boone Lake, South Olson, Watauga, that area. Gonna run a couple up there, and then I'm gonna leave pre-practice for Smith Lake a couple of days. And I've never pre-practiced a day in my life, but I think after the Classic, I just want to do that much more. And I think that's going to be a tournament where you can mark brush and it come back to play in late June when we go there. So I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to go actually to Florida a little bit early, fish Okeechobee a couple of days. I'm with one of my good friends because that was my worst finish last year. I just want to understand it a little bit better and kind of just get in that swing of Florida fishing, and then going to go straight to work on the Harris chain. And I've had a good track record there in the past. So
That's what I was about to say. You've done pretty decent on the Harris chain.
Yeah, I've won a national championship there and had several other top 20 finishes. And I've also bombed on there. I mean, the Harris chain can be one of the places it can, almost knowing too much can hurt. But I'm going to keep an open mind and try a lot of stuff. And I love grass fishing, and I like the Harris chain a lot, so I'm excited about it.
So, like, with you having history on the Harris chain, when you go in there for practice, do you allow, or do you let's say I'm going in there, all right, I know this place right here. Mm-hmm. Do you just go and kind of let the fish tell you where they're at and positioned, or do you try to run off a little bit of history?
Yeah, so the Harris chain is unique in that, and a lot of the Florida lakes are like this, where they spray it every year, or sometimes multiple times a year, which so it changes every year. Like the grass, a lot of times won't grow here, and it'll grow over here instead, and so you almost have to relearn it every single time.
When they find out it's growing over here, they'll spray it there.
Yeah.
Until it comes up over there.
Yeah. So, and I've even been there before. Like I remember.
This is a Florida boy talking.
Oh yeah, I know. I knew you'd know all too well. But I remember it was 2021, I think. Yeah, it was my first year. I just fished the Southern Opens. I was there before our first Open at the Harris Chain. I had a college tournament there. And, man, that flat and Griffin was going off. We went over there and we caught them, lost a bunch, probably should have won the tournament. But, it's so easy to go catch 18 pounds. I mean, you can do it with your eyes closed. And then we get there 3 weeks later for that Open. I'm like, well, if I don't find anything, I can run over there and catch, 18 to 30 pounds and do really good. And I go over there one day in practice, and it just didn't look right. It looked like some of the grass turned red, and I was like, something's happened. And just in a 3 week period of time, that lake changed a ton. Yeah. So the Harris chain is one of the places you got to keep it there's certain things you look for, like if you get used to seeing shell or how it lines up next to grass or brim beds, and you can get good at that stuff and kind of know when you see the juice. You know what it looks like, but you do have to relearn it every time.
Right. Florida lakes change so frequently.
They do.
Mean, Florida lakes could change overnight in the Florida lakes for that matter.
Yep.
So, and talk to anglers that don't live in Florida that fishes it with the elite stuff like that once a year, twice a year, pretty much, and they'll be the first to tell you they throw everything out that they've done in the past, delete all the way. They might save their waypoints, but they delete them out of their units and start from scratch every time you go down because they do change so frequently.
Yeah. And I think a big thing, the people who consistently do get in Florida, they know when they get in the right area. There's certain things that maybe it's the cleaner water. On Okeechobee, that's very true. Maybe it's the cleaner water, the way the grass grows. I think that's why you see some guys really consistently do get in Florida. Is that they just kind of recognize that, but they do have to relearn it every time.
Right. Now, what was your – because if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but – was this past year, the elite season, was that the first time that you ever went up and actually fished up north on
it was.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
So what was the biggest thing that you learned with going up there?
Yeah, so for like St. Clair was a shallow, a lot of grass, flat lake that probably fished more like the Harris chain than any other lake on our schedule. Kind of ironically, you'd look for little bare spots in the grass, and that's where they pull out and feed. And especially if you had some type of live imaging on your boat, it made it pretty easy. I mean, after a day on St. Clair, I was pretty worried going into that. And then after the first day of practice on St. Clair, I'm like, the smallmouth game is easy. Like, this is not hard. And I was catching like 23 pounds a day in practice cranking. Right. I mean, just burning a crankbait. And I was like, man, this is awesome. So that one was pretty fun. St. Clair, I think, set up really, really good for me. Champlain also is kind of similar. Champlain, you can fish a lot of different ways. But Champlain, I kind of did the same thing. I fished grass with a crankbait, and got a check there. Then St. Lawrence was more like rock oriented. St. Lawrence is a little tricky. There, I just kind of found isolated boulders, which is not different than fishing anywhere. You look for isolated structure anywhere. That's what I did out here on Grand Lake this week. Is what I tried to find. But the smallmouth game, it's not, especially if you have good electronics and you understand your electronics well. It's not all that different than just largemouth fishing anywhere in the country.
Yeah. So David Hickman said Cole is a great fisherman and a man. So do you know?
I know David very well. Hey, David.
So
he's a good dude too.
And then Michael Lindell says, "Where's your favorite lake and favorite go-to technique?"
Favorite lake, probably St. Clair after last year. That was my first time there. St. Clair was just, so awesome. Your slow days, you're catching 20 pounds. You're getting, 30 bites a day on the slow days. And St. Clair is really special. I'll say lakes in the south. Of course, I like Chickamauga a lot. But I like Chickamauga not because it's got big fish and I know it well, but I like Chickamauga because it's versatile. Right. There's so many different ways to catch them. And I like that as a pro angler who, wants to hone his skills and get better at a lot of different things. As far as techniques and baits, just depends. I would say a drop shot, honestly. I catch a lot of big fish on a drop shot. Fishing Chickamauga with a lot of pressured fish. It depends on the time of year, too. From like late March till about mid-October, a drop shot's hard to beat. But I have a lot of confidence, too, on, I love to crank, especially shallow crank. And then big swim baits, too. I throw a lot of, good-sized swim baits as well.
Yeah. Now, we don't want to keep you too much longer. We've already had you for 37 minutes or so. But we do want to give you the opportunity to talk about your sponsors because, any angler out there that's fishing and the series and stuff like that you're doing, you've got to have sponsors. So we want you to be able to shout out to your sponsors and stuff as well on here. So what sponsors you have? People can see your jerseys, but what sponsorship has helped you to be able to get to the Bassmaster Classic?
Man, every single one of them. Every single one on my jersey, every single one on my truck and boat. I couldn't be here without any of them. It takes a lot of support, and I value everyone very much. And what's awesome about the sponsors that I have is they're not just a company here or a company there, but it's like 99% of my, I'll say probably all of them actually. I personally know the owner of the company. They're great people. They make great products. They do great work, and I believe in their company just as much as they believe in me. So it makes it very easy to promote them, which is very nice from this part of view. Or this side of it, and so it's every single one of them.
And did you happen? Hopefully you didn't have to, but did you happen to have your motor worked on while you're up here?
Not at this event. I've had to have it worked in the past, and definitely that service trailer is a very, very awesome part.
Well, the reason why I say it because that's my cousin that does that.
Okay, cool.
So. Usually I don't tell too many people about it because they hold it against me.
Yeah.
But I was just going to make sure that he done, and which he always does. He always.
Who does he work for?
Yamaha.
Yamaha. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All they've had to do so far, I had a ear thrown on my prop in one of the events, and really easy fixes. Yamahas are very dependable, very reliable. So thankfully they don't. You look at their line at the trailer, and it's usually not too long, which I really like.
Thing that, when I got a boat and I was talking to Dan about it, and he was like, "You need to have a Yamaha put on there," and I was like, "Which I have a Mercury," and he said Yamaha's just more dependable, and I'm like, he's just saying that because that's who pays his bills, and he's like, I've gone to multiple events and been able to just go and hang out with them and stuff while y'all are fishing, and he's like. He said, "Watch. You see the line of the people at the Mercury?" And he said, "Look, how many people do you see over here? I'm here still able to talk to you and stuff." So, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's to me. I mean, it is amazing to be able to have a local guy. I mean, which we do live on Chickamauga, and I mean, we've got quite a few pro anglers and stuff. But to be able to see you kind of grow up in the sport with being around Chickamauga and seeing and kind of watching your career, it's been phenomenal to me to watch you just grow in the sport. And I was so stoked when I seen that you made it into the classic. And but to be able to have you come on has been an honor, especially for the third time that we've had you. We've had
your third time, man.
Yeah,
And
hey,
so
I
this is
enjoy
the
it.
first three-peater.
Yep.
Well, look at that.
Now I do want to say something.
Okay.
Yo Zuri,
Mhm.
how their jerk baits to me, that's the main thing that I've been able to throw from Yo Zuri, and to me, I love their jerk baits.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that sets them apart? Because I've seen like I get more bites and stuff but they're consistently bigger than average bites.
Yeah.
What is it with the Ozeri jerk baits that make that happen?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I can't really put my finger on, but there's something about the Ozuri jerk bait. My quality seems to go up when I throw
Right.
that. Maybe not as many numbers always. A lot of times it is, but something about quality. Like, and there's some color schemes too that they have that I think are really really good.
They had a newer one that just came out. Oh crap! It was almost like a bluish looking color that I seen.
In their jerk bait lineup.
Yeah, I don't know. I think of the color of it here in a
Good.
minute, but the colors that they've come out with have
Yeah.
been phenomenal.
Oh, they've got everything covered when it comes to their jerk baits, especially. I think they have a great lineup, and I know like. I know which one you're talking about. Probably one of the new ones is the Ghost Pearl Shad.
Yeah, that's it.
We had so many giant bags this winter on Chickamauga throwing that jerk bait, and I don't know what it is, but man, that jerk bait catches some giant fish.
Now, are you a big believer in color?
Well,
do you think color makes a big difference?
So on certain things, on a jerk bait, it makes a huge difference. And what I've noticed, especially this year, I've become a better jerk bait fisherman than any other point in my life, and that's Lake Fork. I really started throwing it, and I figured out how to catch them on day two. Like, here's a pretty cool story. At Fork on day one, and in practice too, I was throwing a jerk bait a lot. I was throwing that 110. I'd catch a few. They were really hard to get to commit. And then the hardcore side of Yo's where they make a jerk bait that's a 130. It's a big sucker. It's like a 6-inch jerk bait. So, man, I'm going to tie this thing on. And that same color, that Ghost Pearl Shad, I throw it out there. And first one I throw out, there's two. They're fighting over it, trying to get it. Next one I throw it, and I catch it as, 5-something, almost a 6-pounder. Next one I throw out, I catch it as a 5-pounder. Next one I throw out, I catch it as over 8. I'm like, why did I not do this, earlier? And then I've been experimenting a lot this week too, and back at home between Fork and here, changing colors to that jerk bait. And the main thing I've noticed, certain colors, they'll fall about any of them, but you got to have the exact right color. Like this week, there was and I'll change color a little bit too, based on the watercolor too, but they'd follow just about any of them, but there was only certain ones that they'd commit to.
And what you're saying there, as far as learning how these fish react to certain colors, and like you're saying, seeing which fish follows them up, which fish actually commits after following them, that just goes to show also what learning you could have with forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, absolutely.
With being able to watch them fish in real time versus back 5 years ago, that nobody would have knew that.
Absolutely, right? And that's even like I used to be really bad. Like I'd have confidence in this one color, and I'll be like, well, if they're biting a jerk bait, I just need to find the fish that'll bite it. And so I'll throw it all day and maybe catch a couple. But this year I've really these last 2 tournaments, this one in practice too, I figured out the jerk bait they wanted, and it was I had to go through 15 jerk baits before I found the one that they'd commit to.
And back in the day, and it wasn't even that long ago, 2-3 years ago probably. How many times are you fishing? The fish are there, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know to make the changes.
Yeah.
Now you know what fish are reacting to what colors, what fish are reacting to what bait. So, that's a little bit of a testament to forward-facing sonar, using it as a learning tool.
Absolutely.
To kind of, it helps teach you what the fish are doing where we would have never knew that 3-4 years ago.
Oh, it's such a great learning tool, and that's why I like it. I mean, and even it's such a great learning tool, but like even this week, like especially yesterday, I threw at so many fish, and you'd catch some little ones, but then big ones, I can't tell you how many 4 to 6 pounders came up and looked at my jerk bait and were that close, and a lot of them would just take it. You just tell these fish have been fished for a lot. They're smart. There's a ton of locals here that fish Grand Lake. They were out in full force on day one of the tournament. They were fishing hard. It was hard to get around some of them, but them fish are smart, and like you can do everything right, but them big ones are still, they're going to be hard to catch. You're not going to catch all of them by any means. Like a good day, if you catch 10% of the fish you see that come up and look at your bait, you've had a pretty good day fishing.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize unless they've actually got forward-facing sonar and used
You
it.
find with the forward-facing sonar, when you're actually targeting fish, you're looking at to try to get as long a cast as you can.
Typically,
to get as far away from the boat as you can.
Yeah, definitely. Now they'll track that jerk bait a long ways, but I always like to try to throw at them way out there. But it depends on the technique too. I mean, some weeks if I'm catching them on a drop shot, you can catch them just about under the boat. And I caught several on a jerk bait too. They'd fall to the boat, and as well as color and a lot of different things. But cadence is huge, and a lot of them fish, you'd get them to the boat and you do little up twitches instead of down twitches, and a lot of times you get them fish to commit right at the very end. And but yeah, it's just such a great learning tool because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you was talking about how you just throwing on fork and you could see where you had 2 of them coming after it, looking at it.
Yeah.
Now, if you would have caught both of them at the same time, are you able to keep both of them?
Oh yeah, if you catch 2 at one time, you're allowed to. Absolutely.
I didn't know if I mean, just one thing is like, because like with the A rig and all that they kind of shunned it, and I didn't know. To me, it's kind of crazy where you can't throw an A rig, but you got a jerk bait that's got 9 hooks on it.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't eliminate the fish catch. They eliminated the bait.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know if it. I mean, so that'd be great. You have 2 5-pounders. You got 10 pounds.
I'm waiting for that to happen. That hasn't happened in an Elite Series tournament for me yet. So, but hey, maybe next week.
Well, hopefully, we're going to be able to see you hosting a few trophies up the rest of the year, and because we really want to see you out here again. We want to see you in Texas, and we want to say thanks again for coming on.
Yeah.
But Norman, real quick, let's ask the last question because we don't want to tie him up because we know how schedule is with the Classic. So.
Cole, and I think this is probably your 3rd time hearing this question, but we'll ask it again anyway. So you probably know what's coming. But if you were to have one person in your boat, now this person could be passed away or still with us, who would this person be, and why would you want to fish with him for the day?
That's an easy one. We'll have to go with Jesus because he said cast the right side of the boat, and their nets were about to break. So that would be it. I mean, I think that's maybe that's the cop-out answer. I don't know, but I think that's the easiest answer, and I think that's the best answer. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, and you can't beat it.
No.
I think the last time you was on, you said the exact same thing, and I told you, I said, I don't know if I would want him to be fishing with him because he'd be like, hey, stupid. So, but yeah, I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, but what kind, real quick, and then we'll let you go. What kind of work are you going to have to do to be able to get back here?
Yeah, so keys top 50s. Cash a check, get a top 50. And so far this season, first tournament, Toledo Bend wasn't great. I finished 79th. Just didn't execute very well there. Lost some fish, and my decision making wasn't great. And then Fork, I had a good comeback on day 2, made the top 50 cut, and ended up having a decent finish there. And I feel like I'm kind of back in the swing of things. I feel like I'm fishing good, and I need to just be consistent. But I mean, for me, it's work hard, be consistent, and last year, I mean, I've actually got a better start this year than I had last year. I mean, last year after my first event, I bombed Okeechobee. I was second to last, and I still made the Classic. Right. So very much still in it to make the Classic. Just make them top 50 cuts, and as long as I can do that from here on out, it shouldn't be any problem. And it's definitely something I'm going to strive for. And hey, hopefully we'll get a couple top 10s in there too.
We know we're going to see you in Texas.
Yeah,
same time next year.
Hey, that'd be great.
But I mean, we've been we've been known not to kind of pat our backs though, but we've been known to call a few guys
Call a couple
that
shots.
call their shots that they're going to win. I mean, just ask Patrick Walters. We told him that he was going to win one of the events up north, and he ended up pulling it off. So, but I think we're going to see you hosting a trophy up over your head here this year, at least one of them. So,
awesome.
And then, I mean, that'd just be easy just to host one up over your head, and then you don't have to really worry about coming back or trying to fight the points with it.
Yeah.
Because you automatically get that draw into here.
On the last term of the year, you do. The rest of them, you don't.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's just make sure we get
Hey, those are good points if you win one, though.
Yeah.
And,
so we got Steve Davis real quick said, proud of you, Cole, rooting for you each tournament. Blue trophy coming your way soon. So we agree, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
But other than that, guys, we are at the Bassmaster Classic. We've got, what about another hour and 45 minutes until we get to see the top 25 come in. Real quick, who do you think, Cole, who do you think is going to pull it out?
It's going to be Justin. He's been fishing really, really good lately. It just kind of seems like his year. Like so far, I know he's talked to him a little bit. He's had terrible practices in these past couple events, great tournaments. And I'd love to see him win. Justin's a super nice guy. He's also on the Yozuri Pro staff as well, and catching a lot of his fish on the Yozuri jerkbait actually. And but yeah, super good dude, humble, and you just tell how bad he wants it. Like every interview I've seen him in so far, he's been just about crying. Like he's
and he's so humble.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to see him win it. I mean, everybody deserves it. That's there, and I'd be happy for any of them. But Justin is my pick to win.
Yeah.
5 o'clock, tune into Bassmaster.com, and you can watch the weigh-in live and see if Justin Hamner is able to pull this thing out.
Yep. So, guys, we're going to get out of here and let Cole get back to doing some business. And so, Cole, brother, thank you so much.
Really appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
We're going to have him back on here sometime soon, especially if he hosts one of them trophies up. We're going to be like, I told you.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you for coming on and watching. I know it's kind of an oddball little live podcast that we have, not being regular scheduled. But thanks to people that did watch and commented. And Cole, again, thanks for coming on. And hope to see you on the water. But last thing, make sure you go to Cole Sands Fishing on, Facebook, Instagram.
I got a YouTube channel as well. There'll be more stuff coming with that. I've been recording a lot of my tournaments, and I'm kind of trying to let them build up so I can almost film a series. So, yeah.
And also watch his lake map studies and stuff that he's done. Those have been pretty. I've been enjoying watching the little tips and stuff that you've been giving. So make sure you go check him out, follow him, and keep up with what he's doing. Especially if you're a local Chattanooga guy, you need to support your local guys. So, but again, thanks for watching and live the passion.
Tight lines,
See you later.